There we go. There's a pretty big kick out. Let's see if we can bring this one back. Nice. That was a beautiful whip. Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to another edition of Track Walk in MX Simulator, where today we're going to be taking a look at the Dr. Do Racing Compound by JGMX or JGMTbike on the forums, depending on what you guys know him as. It's just JG at this point, honestly. We've seen so many tracks by him that I think everybody just says, oh, it's another JG track or JGMT creation or something like that. But man, oh man, every single track that he puts out is always just really, really good, that it's tough for me to go through and find which one I want to do when I go back and actually like look through the forums and see that he's put a few tracks out. But this is I think this is the most recent one that he put out. He put it out towards the end of June, and obviously it's called the Dr. Do Racing Compound. I guess the Do Racing Team or Dr. Do Racing Team is a team in the game that's been around for a little while, and they're hosting an elimination championship series on this track, and they've already done the qualifiers for it. The finale of it is coming up in a couple days or something like that. I'm not sure if it's going to be streamed or anything like that, but I'll be sure to include some links in the description if you guys want to catch some of that action. Elimination races are always a bit of fun in MX Simulator to see what happens and who wins it. And oftentimes they're able to get some good pros that end up doing those elimination races, and those pros don't always win because elimination races are random and wild. But anyway, this track by JGMTbike, it's got this main track, national track, whatever you want to call it, on it. And then it's also got like a little sand track kind of mixed into the forest. And then I guess I'd call it like a freestyle track because it's got these like huge jumps all along the outer edge of the track that turn into one big track if you do it all together, I guess. So that's why it's called a compound, because it doesn't have like a supercross track on it or anything like that, which a lot of compounds end up, it's like a national track and a few supercross tracks and maybe like a pit bike track or something like that. But in this case, it is a freestyle, a sand track, and a national track to make a compound. And it's a very fun compound at that. The national track is definitely the highlight for me. JG always does a really, really good job of, to me, just kind of creating some unique flowing sections that you don't always would think about or think that someone would come up with the idea to make it. He obviously includes a lot of elevation, which is something that longtime viewers of the channel will know that I love about any track that is created by any creator, not just JG. But if you have elevation on your track, it's usually a track that's a favorite of mine, or one that I enjoy more so because it utilizes hills and stuff like that. And one thing that JG has always done with his tracks is like he'll make big jumps that kind of just like come from the elevation, I guess. Like you either have a big step up or like a big step down, or a big double that goes from one big hillside to another or whatever. I feel like a lot of stuff that he makes ends up being a little bit more like unrealistic, or maybe even realistic but impossibly done type of stuff. Like you wouldn't expect to see it on an actual national track to any degree because it's a bit too big. But because of that, it fits kind of the mold of your stereotypical sim player quite well, because for me, I still find fun in it as more of like a hardcore sim player and someone that has played this game for over a decade and knows the ins and outs of like a real hard national track, but also enjoys the fun aspects of it, which is throwing whips or backflips or other things like that, which is what a lot of sim players that just pick up the game for fun, they like tossing out a big old whip like over this finish line jump or something like that. And this track does a really good job of incorporating all that feel to it, because it still is an actual track. It still has some hard things about it, whether it's trying to make it to like an inside line or rail a rut clean to get a double out of a corner or something like that feels realistic. It still ties in all the overly large features of the track in quite well. Like this section back here, for example, you got braking bumps to an inside rut, and if you can get this inside rut clean enough, you can triple out from the inside, land in the bumps again, and still make it. I didn't make it to the inside right there, but you make it to the inside on that, then come down this hill, and then you got a little kind of like hop triple into this corner to hit this inside rut, which again, I'm just kind of making it all look terrible, but you can come out of that corner, still hit the double, and then the step up. Like this stuff is more up my alley, like the more tight technical stuff. But then it opens right back up into this table, and then a big step down triple, and then if you can carry enough speed off of that, you can quad all the way out into this corner, which again, Probably a little bit unrealistic. I don't think you'd expect to see that on a real track in any shape or form. Maybe I could see like the beginning part of that section on a racetrack, but the step down is also like way bigger than something I would normally expect to see on a realistic racing track. So again, like I said, he's really good at tying in unrealistic features into a pretty realistic feeling track, and then what you end up with is like a really good video game track, I guess would be the way to put it, because it's not like a sim track in that regard. It's more like a wide open, floaty, fast, jumpy track, but it works awesome in a video game and makes you feel like you're having fun playing sim instead of grinding and hating life because you're hitting a ton of braking bumps and crashing every corner. So definitely appreciate that he does try to incorporate things that feel realistic but also are not realistic, and it ties the whole track in very well together. So kudos on that. We've done a lot of his tracks before as well, and he actually explained on this track build that this was kind of a throwback to some of his earlier track builds in the way that he approached this one. More so with like trying to make it easy, I guess, and so far I'm not doing a great job of showing that off in the video, but he was making it sound like in the forum post on this one that he was like trying to just have a rather simple track at the end of it, and not something that's overly technical or overly hard to think about, like you just go from jump to jump and flow sections instead of I guess, you know, trying to make sure that you have the right speed for a section or whatever. Like there are a couple sections that if you're not thinking too hard about it, you might get lost. Like on this one, you have a huge double. Unfortunately, you can see ahead to this point, but you definitely have to check up quite a bit to do this little like floater table into the corner. And if you weren't thinking too hard about it, you might just pop off of that and go way over the berm or something like that. So again, you know, tying a couple of unrealistic and realistic features together, but like he was saying in the post, I think it's tying it back to some earlier tracks that he had some inspiration to build. You know, just fast, floaty, simple, easy tracks. To a degree, I feel like this track almost reminds me a little bit of Blake Scheiman's tracks, FamMX tracks that were used for like FamMX Fall Cups and stuff like that back in 2014 and 15, because it is really fast and wide open. And obviously it could be used for like a local series race or whatever, but it's also a massive track. Like lap times gonna hover in like the 230s or above. So that's also not very a local cross feel of a track, because a lot of the local cross stuff, it would be, you know, a little bit over a minute, maybe a minute and a half for like a total lap time, but you definitely wouldn't approach like the 2-minute mark very often, because that's more of like your national level tracks. So this one is like an overscaled, large version of some FamMX tracks, I guess, or like more the local cross track vibe stuff, I guess, from back in the day. But it all ties in just so well together. The tracks flow really nicely as we're going to tuck a front end and go down right there. And it's pretty easy to kind of figure out where you're on the track, figure out how big the jumps are, throw whips, have a good time, and enjoy playing MX Simulator along the way. So I'm going to finish up on the national track here because I've already made it look terrible enough. We're going to jump over to the sand track, which is just off to the left here. We're going to duck into the hills and come down right here, and we'll end on all the freestyle stuff because there's a lot of really big hits that I'm going to try my very best to throw some whips, maybe a couple backflips or 360s or two, but most likely crash on every single hit. And we'll see if we can make it look halfway decent on the process. But the sand track is quite a bit of fun. Single track, little feel like sand track that you would have, I don't know, like in your backyard, I guess, if you have some sandy conditions and you're just weaving it through some trees. You got a couple different rut options, but for the most part, it's really tight and narrow and gives you the feel like you just kind of laid it down by spinning a little bit of a moto through your backyard, and then before you know it, you have like this little sand track laid out. So that definitely has a little bit of like the added value of a unique track added to it. It's not like he created a whole separate national track. Like this is really just like a private fun track to practice on. And for me, again, this goes back to more of what I played sim for, which is like the realistic feeling stuff. This to me is a pretty realistic feeling little like hidden sand track. And I know it doesn't maybe like look super realistic or anything like that, but just the flow from corner to corner, kind of bouncing through stuff. There's only a couple maybe like big hits that you would I guess say are maybe a little bit too big for a sand track, but they're not even that big. Everything just kind of, you float over the sand from corner to corner, dropping down some of these hills. He's got some gappers where there's like some grass in between and stuff like that, just to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Ooh, as we're gonna get sideways into that corner, but that's okay. Hold it together. And yeah, overall, just like a really fast, flowy, fun single track sand track. that definitely will help you learn some skills with some braking bumps, attacking corners, definitely rut control, because these ruts are not like smooth arching ruts. Like maybe this corner, I guess, is a bad example because it's like pretty much just one long smooth rut through that corner. But the corner before that, if you guys saw as I was going through it, like it kind of double apex. And a lot of those ruts that people, a lot of ruts like those are the ones that people struggle with in Sim, because you don't really feel fully planted in it. And if you don't have good throttle control, you're never going to carry the speed all the way through the corner. You're going to kind of like go in, notch, stand back up, as we're going to go sideways and stay up. But those are really good ruts to practice in, because if you're going to try to compete like on the national schedule, or even just do some fun amateur races and stuff like that, that's a skill set that can really help you to have that throttle control to like double apex ruts pretty cleanly, not stand it back up, kind of keep a good angle through the corner, and things like that. So really good, fun little track to practice on, I would say. Pretty simple in the end of it, not too hard to get the hang of. And aesthetically, looks pretty good. You know, it maybe could have done a little bit better with the decals, because it's really just a very basic sand decal that weaves through the trees. But I won't fault him for it. I think it looks pretty good overall. So let's go ahead and check out the freestyle course, or the freestyle jumps, which again, similar vibe to JGMT tracks as always. Huge free ride hits that are dirt to dirt gaps, because you can use some steel ramps in this game, but they're not that good. As we're going to land fakie and go down. They're not that good for throwing whips or kicking out oppos or anything like that, because there's all these little notches from the shape files in it. So JG, I think, is almost always exclusively done dirt-to-dirt ramps when it comes to setting up big freestyle hits. And that's because you can throw just absolutely unbelievable whips on them. Like, I think I did a track walk not too long ago where I did a JGMT track, and I threw some of the biggest whips maybe I've ever thrown in this game. We're going to try to throw some of them on this track, but I feel like I'm going to struggle because I'm not really a whipper. I'm more of a realistic racer, realistic rider in Sim. So I never quite learned how to throw the big oppos or throw the gnarly upside down whips. I could get a little bit cranked out, but usually I'm more suited to throwing a whip upside down on like a supercross triple, because it's something that I've hit like 5,000 times in the game, versus these big booter hits, which is something that I'm not accustomed to. But we're trying to get a couple kickouts, see if we can bring that at least back and land. Nope. It's hard because you have to hit these ramps at a certain angle where you float the right direction, because you can't correct in midair. You can't go to the left and then steer back to the right. And on top of that, you also have to hit it at the right speed, because they're so big that if you slightly case it or overjump it even a little bit, you're going to crash immediately, because you're just too high up in the air. You're just going to hit the ground too hard. There we go. There's a pretty big kick out. Let's see if we can bring this one back. Nice. That was a beautiful whip. It's not very realistic looking, but in the end, it kind of worked out to pull that one back around. Now, what I'm doing right there is like a bit of a tutorial, I guess, on how to throw that whip. What I'm doing is I'm clutching and like kind of seat bouncing at the top of it, but I'm seat bouncing in one specific direction. I'll try to do it again right here. So like clutch and seat bounce one direction. As we're going to do like a barrel roll. That was actually, if I had thought about that a little bit harder and tried to pre-plan that, that's a very similar vibe to doing barrel rolls that I learned from a YouTuber from a long time ago that created sim videos named Robin Rosenvinge, who basically in a video that he did like a decade ago explained in the comment section of his video how to do a barrel roll. And ever since then, I have never been able to perfect it, but I've always tried. There's a huge 720 that we almost landed. But that's, again, trying to do the same kind of flick out. You just kind of seat bounce to one direction, so it kicks the nose high, but it doesn't flip you forward. You just kind of end up stabled and in the middle, but then the rear end kicks out in one direction. It's almost like, if you can imagine it, it's almost like you're trying to do a scrub, but you're starting without leaning one direction. You're just kind of trying to do like a little flick at the top of the controller. It's one of those things that I've always felt like I needed to do a proper tutorial on how to kick whips out like that in this game, but I've never been good at it, so it's kind of pointless for me to explain it, because I'm not the one that would be like championing on really how you should do it. I should probably get someone else who does know how to do it to get together. There's a little bit of a floater oppo, and we're going to end up going fakie because I grabbed the rear brake a little bit too fast. It's just hard to pull around, honestly. And it's one of those things that the people that are really good at throwing whips in this game, like Byron Downan's really good at it, Dominic Saulnier, guys like those, they practice it over and over and over again and just get used to which direction the bike is going to turn once you like tap the rear brake, or maybe even use a little bit of front brake to kind of keep the nose level. And then depending on how you flick out the whip or the scrub, there's a good one. Pull it back, pull it back, pull it back. Oh, not quite. Just couldn't quite get it back around right there. But that one whip that I threw off of the big booter going the other direction right there was probably about the best one I was going to be able to throw anyway. So pretty satisfied I even got one around, because it's really hard to get those to kick out. But JG's always been really good at building lips on his freestyle ramps that, I mean, they do that like perfect little like fade away, I guess is the way you would put it, where like, yeah, here we go. Can we get a 720 around? Oh, almost there, but we're still not going long enough because I'm restarting in between each transition. If I connected the first jump into the second jump, I'd probably be going long on all of these, but it is what it is. All right, I'm going to hit this ramp over here one more time because I just want to see if I can do something similar to what I did the first time on this jump. We'll hit it in 5th gear, and oh, big upside down whip. Let's see if we can pull it back around. Yeah, that might be my jump right there. I didn't quite pull it all the way back to land, but that booter right there might be my jump on the track of choice, because so far 2 out of 2 for really kicking out a whip that actually eventually came back around for me, which is quite rare when I play this game. So we'll hit it one more time just for fun to wrap up the video. But this is the Dr. Do Racing Compound in MX Simulator. The download link will be available in the description below if you guys would like to try it out for yourself. Shout out to JGMTbike for putting it together, and I guess the Dr. Do Racing guys for asking JGMTbike to put it together, because it's a really fun track, has a lot of cool features on it, and we're not going to quite land the last jump there. But a fun national track, fun sand track, and of course some fun free ride jumps for you guys to hit. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you have any more comments, questions, or concerns, please be sure to hit us up in the comment section below. Happy to answer with anything that I can help out with you guys there. But that's going to do it for us here on another edition of Track Walk in MX Simulator, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.